second time that afternoon. The first time had been when Mr. Patterson told her she'd inherited Premier Holdings, a real estate empire worth over $2 billion. The second time was worse. Much worse. On the screen, her husband Brandon leaned against a granite countertop in what looked like an expensive condo, his arms around a blonde woman Simone had never seen before. They were laughing. But it wasn't the embrace that made Simone's hands shake. It was what Brandon said next. "She has no idea about anything," Brandon said, kissing the woman's neck. "Simone just goes to her little bookkeeping job and comes home to cook dinner. She's convenient, easy, too trusting to ever question where I am." The blonde woman giggled. "What if she finds out?" "She won't. My wife isn't smart enough to put the pieces together." Mr. Patterson paused the video. "Mrs. Simone Clark, I'm deeply sorry you had to see this. The security footage was flagged by our building management team during a routine review. When we realized the man in the video was Brandon Clark, one of our junior agents, we felt obligated to inform you, especially given your new position." Simone sat in the leather chair of Patterson and Associates, her mind spinning. 2 hours ago, she'd been a bookkeeper at a small accounting firm, married for 5 years to a man she thought she knew. Now she was the owner of Premier Holdings, the largest real estate empire in the state, and her husband was cheating on her. In one of her buildings. Calling her stupid. "This footage is from 3 days ago," Mr. Patterson continued, his gray eyebrows furrowed with concern. "The property is the Riverside luxury condominiums on 4th Street. According to our records, Mr. Clark has been using his agent access key to enter Unit 4207 regularly for the past 8 months. 8 months. Simone's mind raced back through the past year. Brandon's late nights. His sudden interest in networking events. The way he'd become distant, checking his phone constantly. She'd noticed but pushed her concerns away, trusting him when he said he was working hard to build his career. "The woman is Ashley Monroe," Mr. Patterson said, sliding a folder across his mahogany desk. "She's a loan officer at Coastal Bank. We've had several transactions with her institution." Simone opened the folder with trembling fingers. Inside were photos, printed emails, text message records. Her lawyer had been thorough. Ashley Monroe was 28, blonde, and worked in the same professional circle as Brandon. The messages were explicit, planning meetups, talking about their future together. In one text, Brandon had written, "Just a little longer and I'll figure out how to leave. She's got nothing. The divorce will be easy." "How did I inherit Premier Holdings?" Simone asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She needed to focus on something, anything, other than the betrayal burning through her chest. Mr. Patterson leaned back in his chair. "Your great-uncle, Bernard Foster, built Premier Holdings from the ground up over 40 years. He never married after his wife passed, had no children. When he died last month, his will specified that everything go to you. He'd been watching your life from a distance. You reminded him of his late wife, Clara. Intelligent, kind, strong. He believed you deserved an opportunity." Simone had barely known Bernard Foster. He was her grandmother's brother, a man who'd sent birthday cards with generous checks but whom she'd only met a handful of times at family reunions. The last time she'd seen him was 3 years ago at her grandmother's funeral. He'd hugged her and told her she had her great-aunt Clara's eyes. "Premier Holdings employs over 300 people," Mr. Patterson continued. "We have 75 properties across the state, from luxury condos to office buildings to shopping centers. Your great-uncle was very particular about ethics. He built this company on integrity. Which brings me to another concern." He pulled out another folder. "We've been reviewing employee files as part of the transition process. Your husband has had several complaints filed against him over the past year. Misrepresenting property values, cutting corners on inspections, pushing clients into deals that weren't in their best interest. Nothing prosecutable yet, but ethically questionable. The previous management team swept most of it under the rug because Brandon brought in revenue." Simone felt numb. The man she'd married, the man she'd supported through his real estate license courses, who she'd celebrated with when he got his first job at Premier Holdings 2 years ago, was not who she thought he was. "What do I do now?" she asked. "That's entirely up to you," Mr. Patterson said gently. "But you have options. Many options. You're now the majority shareholder and CEO of a major corporation. You have resources, legal protection, and most importantly, you have the truth. What you do with that truth is your decision." Simone looked down at the papers in front of her. The corporate documents that made her a billionaire. The evidence that made her a fool. No, not a fool. A woman who trusted someone who didn't deserve it. "I need copies of everything," Simone said, her voice growing stronger. Every complaint about Brandon. Every piece of security footage. Every text message you can legally obtain. And I need the names of the best private investigators in the city. Mr. Patterson smiled slightly. I took the liberty of compiling that information already. I thought you might ask. He slid another folder across the desk. These 3 firms are discreet, thorough, and fast. They understand the sensitivity required for situations like this. Thank you. Simone stood, gathering the folders. Her legs felt shaky, but she forced herself to stand tall. I'll need a few days to process everything. Can we schedule a meeting for early next week to discuss the company transition? Of course. And Mrs. Clark? Simone? Mr. Patterson stood as well. Your great-uncle chose well. Whatever you decide to do, I believe you'll handle it with the grace and intelligence he saw in you. Simone walked out of the office building into the bright afternoon sun. The world looked different now. The city stretched out before her, and somewhere in it, Brandon was probably with Ashley right now, thinking his wife was at her desk doing bookkeeping, completely unaware that everything had changed. She sat in her modest sedan, a car Brandon had convinced her they needed to buy used to save money, while he drove the leased BMW he claimed was necessary for his image as an agent. She looked at herself in the rearview mirror. At 33 years old, she was a beautiful African-American woman with intelligent brown eyes, natural curly hair she usually wore in a neat bun for work, and a face that right now showed no tears. She wouldn't cry. Not yet. Maybe not at all. Simone pulled out her phone and called the first private investigator on Mr. Patterson's list. A woman answered on the second ring. Diamond Investigations, this is Nicole speaking. Hello. My name is Simone Clark. I need comprehensive surveillance and background on 2 people. Money is not an issue, but discretion is essential. We can certainly help you with that, Mrs. Clark. When would you like to come in to discuss the details? Now. I can be there in 20 minutes. We'll be ready for you. Simone started her car. Before pulling out of the parking lot, she looked at the photo of her and Brandon on her dashboard, taken on their wedding day 5 years ago. She'd been so happy then, so full of hope. The woman in that photo had no idea what was coming. But the woman sitting in this car now knew exactly what she needed to do. She reached over and turned the photo face down. Then she drove toward Diamond Investigations, her mind already planning her next steps. Brandon thought she was convenient and too trusting. He thought she would never question him. He thought she had nothing. He had no idea that his convenient, trusting wife with nothing had just become the owner of his entire world. And she was about to show him exactly how wrong he'd been about her. The city traffic moved slowly, but Simone didn't mind. She used the drive to think. Every late night Brandon had claimed was work. Every weekend he'd said he had open houses. Every time he'd made her feel guilty for asking questions. It all made sense now. Her phone buzzed with a text from Brandon. Working late again tonight. Don't wait up. Love you. Simone stared at the message. Love you. 2 words he'd typed hundreds of times, meaningless now. She didn't respond. Instead, she forwarded the message to her lawyer with a note. For the record. By the time she pulled into the parking lot of Diamond Investigations, Simone had made her decision. She wouldn't just divorce Brandon. She wouldn't just fire him. She would systematically dismantle every lie he'd built, expose every corner he'd cut, and make sure he faced the consequences of his choices. Not out of spite, but out of justice. For herself, for the clients he'd misled, for the integrity her great-uncle had built Premier Holdings on. Brandon had called her convenient and too trusting. He was about to learn that she was neither. She was powerful, she was intelligent, and she was done being underestimated. The receptionist at Diamond Investigations looked up as Simone entered. Mrs. Clark? Yes. Nicole is ready for you. Right this way. Simone followed her down a hallway, her heels clicking on the polished floor. With each step she felt stronger. The unsettling discovery in Mr. Patterson's office had shattered her old life. But from those broken pieces she was going to build something better. Something true. And Brandon would never see it coming. Simone spent 3 hours at Diamond Investigations, detailing everything she knew about Brandon's schedule, his habits, his patterns. Nicole, a sharp-eyed woman in her 40s with graying hair and a no-nonsense attitude, took notes and asked pointed questions. How long have you been married? Nicole asked. 5 years. We met when I was working at an accounting firm downtown. He was charming, ambitious. He talked about building a future together. And when did you start noticing changes? Simone thought back. About 9 months ago. He became secretive with his phone. Started working late more often. We used to have dinner together every night, but suddenly he was always too busy. I thought he was just stressed about work. Nicole nodded, writing. That timeline matches what your lawyer gave us. The affair started approximately 8 months ago. In my experience, there's usually a week or two of planning before someone actually starts cheating. The behavior changes often begin before the physical affair. The words stung, but Simone kept her expression neutral. What do you need from me? Access to any shared accounts, phone records if possible, his work schedule if you have it. Also, I'll need you to act completely normal at home. Can you do that? Yes. Simone's voice was steady. He thinks I'm at work right now. I told my boss I had a family emergency and took the rest of the week off. Brandon doesn't know. Good. Don't tell him anything. Continue your routine as if nothing has changed. We'll handle the rest. Nicole slid a contract across her desk. We charge by the hour, but for a case like this, I'd estimate we'll need about 2 weeks to gather comprehensive evidence. Video, photos, financial records, everything you'd need for divorce proceedings. Simone signed the contract without hesitation. The fee was substantial, but compared to what she now owned, it was nothing. I want to know everything. Where they go, what they do, how often they meet. I want documentation of every time he lies to me about his whereabouts. You'll have it. Nicole stood and shook Simone's hand. I've been doing this for 20 years, Mrs. Clark. I've seen a lot of people in your situation. Some fall apart, some get angry, some get reckless. But you're handling this like someone who's already 3 steps ahead. That's going to serve you well. Simone left Diamond Investigations and drove home to the house she shared with Brandon, a modest 3-bedroom in a decent neighborhood. They'd bought it 3 years ago with help from her savings. Brandon had insisted on putting both names on the deed, talking about partnership and building together. Now Simone wondered if he just wanted to make sure he'd get half of everything if they divorced. She pulled into the driveway at 4 o'clock. Brandon's BMW wasn't there, which wasn't surprising given his text about working late. Simone unlocked the door and walked into the house that suddenly felt like a stranger's space. Everything looked the same. The gray couch they'd picked out together. The photos on the walls of their wedding, their vacations, their life. But it was all a lie, or at least built on a foundation that was crumbling. Simone went to their bedroom and sat on the bed. She needed to think. The private investigator would gather evidence of the affair, but Simone wanted to know more. She wanted to understand how Brandon could do this. How he could look her in the eye every day and lie. She started with his nightstand drawer. Inside she found nothing unusual at first. Some papers, old receipts, a book he'd been reading. But at the very back, hidden under a stack of old magazines, she found a second phone. Her heart pounded as she picked it up. It was off, but when she pressed the power button it came to life. No password. Brandon was arrogant enough not to even protect his burner phone. The text messages loaded, and Simone's stomach turned. Hundreds of messages between Brandon and a contact saved as A. Had to be Ashley. Can't wait to see you tonight, one read. Tell the wife you have an open house. She asked where I was last weekend. Had to make up a story about a company retreat. When are you going to leave her? I'm tired of hiding. Soon, baby. I promise. I just need to figure out the finances. She doesn't make much, so the divorce should be straightforward. Simone scrolled through months of messages, each one more damning than the last. They talked about their future together. About buying a house in Ashley's name that Brandon would eventually move into. About trips they wanted to take. About how boring and naive Simone was. In one particularly cruel exchange Ashley had sent, "Does she suspect anything?" Brandon replied, "No way. Simone's not exactly smart. She's a bookkeeper. She follows rules and trusts what she's told. It's actually perfect because she never questions anything." Simone took photos of every message with her own phone. Then she turned off the burner phone and placed it back exactly where she'd found it. She moved to Brandon's closet next. In the back, behind his suits, she found gift bags. Expensive jewelry, perfume, lingerie, all with receipts. None of it had ever been given to Simone. He'd been buying Ashley presents while telling Simone they needed to stick to a budget. The receipts showed a pattern. Restaurants Simone had never been to. Hotels downtown. Shopping trips at stores Brandon claimed were too expensive, when Simone wanted to buy anything. He'd spent thousands of dollars on his affair while making Simone feel guilty for wanting to replace her worn-out winter coat. By the time Simone finished searching the bedroom, she had photos of receipts totaling over $15,000 spent on Ashley in just 8 months. She also found a lease agreement. For an apartment across town, signed by Brandon 3 months ago. The apartment Mr. Patterson had mentioned, where Brandon had asked Simone for $5,000, claiming it was for a business investment opportunity. She'd given him the money from her savings. Money she'd been putting away for years, thinking they were building a future together. Simone sat on the bedroom floor surrounded by evidence of her husband's betrayal. She should feel devastated. She should be crying. Instead, she felt a cold, clear anger. Brandon had called her not smart. He'd said she followed rules and trusted what she was told. He'd underestimated her in every possible way. He was about to learn the cost of that mistake. Her phone rang. Nicole from Diamond Investigations. Mrs. Clark, we've already started preliminary surveillance. Your husband left the Premier Holdings office at 2 this afternoon. He's currently at the Riverside Luxury Condominiums. Unit 4207. He was met there by Ashley Monroe at 2:30. They're still inside. Thank you, Simone said. Can you send me the photos? They'll be in your secure client portal within the hour. We'll continue surveillance and document everything. After hanging up, Simone stood and carefully put everything back where she'd found it. She needed Brandon to suspect nothing. She went downstairs and started preparing dinner just like she did every night. Grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, rice. His favorite meal. At 7 o'clock, Brandon's car pulled into the driveway. Simone heard him come through the door, and she forced herself to smile when he walked into the kitchen. Hey babe, he said, kissing her cheek. She could smell perfume on him. Not her perfume. Sorry I'm late. Had a property showing that ran long. No problem, Simone said, her voice light. Dinner's almost ready. How was your day? Exhausting. This market is brutal right now. Brandon loosened his tie and sat at the kitchen table. But I think I'm close to landing a huge commercial deal. Could mean a significant commission. Simone placed a plate in front of him. That's wonderful. You work so hard. Someone has to. Brandon started eating, not noticing the way Simone's hand tightened on her fork. Hey, I might need to travel next week for a conference. Real estate trends and networking. It's in the mountains, some resort. Could be good for my career. Of course, Simone said. You should go. She knew there was no conference. Nicole had already sent her a preliminary report. Brandon and Ashley had been planning a trip to a mountain resort for weeks. They'd booked a couple's suite using Brandon's credit card, the one Simone thought was just for business expenses. They ate dinner in silence, Brandon scrolling through his phone, Simone watching him carefully. This man who she'd loved, who she'd built a life with, was a complete stranger. But she would not break down. She would not give him the satisfaction of seeing her hurt. After dinner, Brandon went to watch television while Simone cleaned up. She checked her secure client portal from Diamond Investigations. The photos were there. Brandon and Ashley entering the condo. Time-stamped images of them on the balcony, kissing. Interior shots through the window of them together in the living room. Nicole had included a note. Subject and companion appear very comfortable in the space. Behavior suggests this is a routine meeting location. We'll continue surveillance and provide daily updates. Simone closed her laptop and went upstairs. Brandon was already in bed, scrolling through his regular phone. She got ready for bed in the bathroom, looking at herself in the mirror. She looked the same as always, but everything inside her had changed. She slipped into bed beside her husband, maintaining the routine. He barely acknowledged her, too focused on his phone. Brandon, she said softly. Yeah. Do you love me? He looked over, surprised by the question. Then he smiled, that charming smile that had won her over 5 years ago. Of course I do. Why would you ask that? Just wondering. Simone turned off her bedside lamp. Good night. Night. In the darkness, Simone stared at the ceiling. Brandon's breathing eventually evened out as he fell asleep. She listened to him snore softly, the man who'd vowed to love and cherish her, who'd promised to build a life with her, who was planning to leave her for another woman while spending her money and using her trust. Tomorrow, she would meet with Mr. Patterson again to discuss taking over Premier Holdings. She would continue gathering evidence with Nicole's help. She would act normal and trusting, exactly as Brandon expected. But inside she was calculating, planning, preparing for the moment when she would turn Brandon's world upside down the same way he'd turned hers. He thought she was convenient and not smart. He thought the divorce would be straightforward because she had nothing. He had no idea that she owned everything he cared about. His job, his reputation, his future in real estate. And she was going to take it all away, piece by piece, until he understood exactly what he'd lost when he betrayed her. Brandon had built his double life on lies. Simone was going to build her revenge on truth. And in the end, truth always won. The Premier Holdings headquarters building was downtown, a sleek tower of glass and steel that reached 30 stories into the sky. Simone had driven past it hundreds of times, never imagining she'd own it. Now, standing in the parking garage, she felt the weight of what she was about to do. Mr. Patterson met her in the lobby. "Good morning, Simone. Are you ready?" "As ready as I'll ever be." They took the elevator to the 30th floor, where the executive offices were located. The view from this height was stunning. The entire city spread out below, the river cutting through the downtown core, mountains visible in the distance. "Your great-uncle's office is now yours," Mr. Patterson said, leading her down a hallway lined with photos of buildings and properties. He was very particular about how he ran things. "I think you'll find his business philosophy well documented." The office was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows, a huge desk made of dark wood, bookshelves filled with real estate texts and business journals. On the wall behind the desk hung a large portrait of an elderly man with kind eyes and a knowing smile. Bernard Foster, her great-uncle. "He looks like Grandma," Simone said softly. "Yes, I can see the resemblance. Please sit." Mr. Patterson gestured to the desk chair. "This is yours now." Simone sat in the leather chair, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. On the desk was a file with her name on it. She opened it to find a handwritten letter. "Your great-uncle wrote that 3 years ago," Mr. Patterson explained. "After your grandmother's funeral. He updated his will shortly after." Simone read the letter, her eyes filling with tears for the first time since this had all begun. "Dear Simone, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you now own everything I've built. I know this must come as a shock. We barely knew each other, and for that, I apologize. After my Clara died, I threw myself into business and forgot about family. But I watched you from a distance. At your grandmother's funeral, we spoke for only a few minutes. But in those minutes, I saw my Clara. Not just in your eyes, but in your spirit. You were kind to everyone there. You helped organize things. You made sure the older relatives had seats and water. You did all this while grieving yourself. Clara built this business with me. She had a mind for details and a heart for people. She believed business should be ethical, that success without integrity meant nothing. When she passed, I promised to maintain that standard. I chose you because I believe you'll honor that promise. I've watched your husband work at Premier Holdings. He's ambitious, but he lacks character. I worried about you being married to him. Now you have the power to make your own choices. Use this company well. Build something that matters. And remember, you're stronger than anyone has given you credit for. With love and hope, Uncle Bernard." Simone closed the letter, her hands shaking. "He knew about Brandon?" "Your great-uncle was very observant," Mr. Patterson said gently. "He noticed things about people. He'd been watching Brandon's performance for the past year and was planning to terminate him. But then Bernard got sick and everything happened quickly at the end. So Brandon was about to lose his job anyway?" "Very likely, yes. The complaints were adding up. But now that decision is yours to make. Speaking of which, we have a board meeting scheduled for this afternoon. They're all aware you're the new owner, but they haven't met you yet. They'll want to know your plans for the company." Simone looked at the city below. Her city now, in a way. What were Uncle Bernard's values? What did he stand for? Integrity above profit. He believed in doing right by clients even if it meant making less money. He refused to push predatory loans or misrepresent properties. He paid his employees well and expected excellence in return. Some board members pushed him to cut corners to maximize profit, but he refused. That's why Premier Holdings has such a solid reputation. And Brandon violates all of those principles, Simone said. From what we found, yes. He's been pressuring clients into deals that benefit his commission rather than their needs. He's misrepresented property values. He's used company resources for personal benefit. None of it is technically illegal, but all of it is unethical. Simone stood and walked to the window. Somewhere down there, Brandon was probably at the office, chatting with colleagues, maybe texting Ashley, completely unaware that his wife was 30 floors above him, controlling his professional fate. "I want to see everything," Simone said. "Every complaint filed against any employee. Every ethical violation report. Every financial record. If I'm going to run this company, I need to understand it completely. I'll have HR prepare all employee files. But Simone, there's something else you should know. Premier Holdings is planning a major expansion. Your great-uncle had secured financing for a new development project, luxury apartments on the waterfront. The project is valued at over $200 million. The board will want to know if you're proceeding with it." $200 million. The number was almost incomprehensible to Simone, who'd been worrying about whether she could afford a new coat just last month. "Do we have the right team to handle something that large?" she asked. "We do. Your great-uncle hired the best architects, contractors and project managers in the state. The concern is leadership. They need to know you're committed to this." "I am committed, but I need time to learn. I need to understand how everything works." "That's exactly what Bernard would have said," Mr. Patterson smiled. "He was always learning, always asking questions. That's what made him successful. Not arrogance, but curiosity and willingness to admit what he didn't know." They spent the next 4 hours going through files. Simone learned about property management, commercial leases, residential sales, development projects, and investment portfolios. Her head spun with information, but she absorbed as much as she could. When they broke for lunch, her phone buzzed with a text from Brandon. "Hey, stuck at the office all day. Probably won't be home until late. Can you pick up my dry cleaning?" Simone texted back, "Sure. See you tonight." Then she opened her secure portal from Diamond Investigations. Nicole had sent an update. Brandon had left the Premier Holdings office at 11 and was currently at a coffee shop meeting with Ashley. The photos showed them holding hands across the table, laughing. Simone closed the portal and focused back on the work in front of her. She couldn't let Brandon distract her from what she needed to do. At 2 o'clock, the board meeting began. Simone entered the conference room to find 8 people sitting around a long table. 4 men, 4 women, all dressed professionally, all watching her with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. "Ladies and gentlemen," Mr. Patterson said, "may I introduce Simone Clark, the new owner and CEO of Premier Holdings." Simone took her seat at the head of the table, the chair her great-uncle had occupied for decades. She looked at each board member, making eye contact, showing confidence she was still building inside herself. "Thank you all for being here," she began. "I know my ownership comes as a surprise. It was a surprise to me too. I didn't know my great-uncle well, but I've been reading about his values and his vision for this company. I intend to honor both." An older man at the far end of the table spoke up. "Miss Clark, with all due respect, do you have any experience in real estate?" "I don't," Simone said honestly. "I've been a bookkeeper for the past 8 years. But I understand numbers, I understand ethics, and I'm a fast learner. What I lack in experience, I'll make up for in commitment to doing things right." A woman in her 50s nodded approvingly. "Your great-uncle always said the most important skill in business was integrity. Everything else could be learned." "That's what I believe too," Simone said. "Which brings me to my first concern. I've been reviewing employee files and I've found some troubling patterns. Complaints that weren't properly addressed. Ethical violations that were overlooked. If we're going to maintain Premier Holdings' reputation, we need to enforce our standards across the board." The board members exchanged glances. Finally, a man in his 40s spoke up. "Are you referring to anyone specifically?" Simone chose her words carefully. "I'm referring to a culture where some employees have been allowed to cut corners because they bring in revenue. That ends now. From this point forward, every complaint will be investigated thoroughly. Every violation will be addressed. If someone isn't meeting our ethical standards, they won't work here, regardless of their sales numbers. That could affect our short-term profits," another board member cautioned. "Maybe," Simone acknowledged, "but it will protect our long-term reputation. My great-uncle built this company on trust. That's worth more than any single commission." The meeting continued for another 2 hours. They discussed the waterfront project, current properties, market trends, and staffing. Simone asked questions, took notes, and listened carefully to every piece of advice. By the time the meeting ended, she felt exhausted but energized. She was doing this. She was actually running a company. As the board members filed out, the woman who'd spoken approvingly earlier stayed behind. "Miss Clark, I'm Patricia Reynolds. I've been on this board for 15 years. Your great-uncle was my mentor." She extended her hand and Simone shook it. "I want you to know Bernard made the right choice. You have something many people in business lack. You have principles. Don't lose those no matter what pressure you face." "Thank you, Mrs. Reynolds. That means a lot. Call me Patricia. And if you need help navigating anything, please reach out. Your great-uncle was my friend. I'd like to help his niece succeed." After Patricia left, Simone sat alone in the conference room. Through the window, she could see the Premier Holdings sales floor below. Dozens of agents at their desks making calls, working on deals. Somewhere down there was Brandon. Her phone buzzed. "Nicole again. Subject has returned to Riverside condominiums with Ashley Monroe. 3rd visit this week." Do you want us to continue surveillance? Simone typed back, yes. Document everything. She stood and walked to the window. Brandon thought he was building a life with Ashley. He thought he'd leave his convenient, not smart wife and start fresh. He had no idea that every move he made was being documented. Every lie was being recorded. Every ethical violation was being compiled. Simone wasn't just gathering evidence for a divorce anymore. She was building a case for termination, for potential legal action if his misrepresentations to clients warranted it. She was systematically preparing to dismantle the life Brandon had built on lies. Mr. Patterson appeared in the doorway. How are you holding up? I'm okay, Simone said. Actually, I'm better than okay. I'm angry, which is keeping me focused. Anger can be useful as long as it's channeled properly. Just don't let it consume you. I won't, but I will use it. Brandon underestimated me. He thought I was too trusting to question him. Too convenient to leave right now. Too not smart to figure out what he was doing. I'm going to show him exactly how wrong he was about all of that. When are you planning to confront him? Not yet. I need more evidence. I need to make sure everything is airtight. When I finally tell him I know, I want him to realize there's no way out. No excuse he can make. No lie he can tell. I want him to understand that every choice he made led to this moment, and he has no one to blame but himself. Mr. Patterson nodded slowly. Your great-uncle would be proud of you. This is exactly how he would have handled it. Carefully. Strategically. With an eye toward justice rather than just revenge. Simone looked down at the sales floor again. Is there a way to see Brandon's office from here? Actually, yes. The monitoring system for security purposes. Come with me. They went to a security office where multiple screens showed different areas of the building. Mr. Patterson pulled up the sales floor camera and zoomed in on a specific desk. There was Brandon sitting at his computer talking on his phone, smiling. He looked so normal. So professional. No one would guess he was living a double life. No one would suspect he was stealing from his wife and planning to leave her. He was good at pretending. But Simone was about to become even better. I want access to this system, she said. I want to be able to monitor what happens in this building. As owner, you have full access. I'll have IT set up your credentials. Simone watched Brandon for another minute. He ended his call and started typing on his computer. Probably texting Ashley. Probably planning their next meeting. Probably congratulating himself on how well he was managing his secret life. He had no idea his wife was watching him. He had no idea his wife owned the building he sat in, the desk he used, the company that paid his salary. He had no idea his convenient, trusting, not smart wife was about to become his worst nightmare. Simone smiled. Not a happy smile. A cold, determined smile. Brandon wanted to play games. She was about to show him what happened when you underestimated your opponent. The game was just beginning and Brandon had already lost. He just didn't know it yet. A week passed. 7 days of Simone living a double life that mirrored Brandon's own deception. She went to Premier Holdings every morning, using a private entrance to avoid being seen by regular employees. She spent her days learning the business, meeting with department heads, reviewing properties and finances. At night, she went home and cooked dinner for a husband who had no idea his world was being carefully dismantled. Nicole from Diamond Investigations sent daily updates. Brandon and Ashley met at the Riverside condo 4 times that week. They had lunch together twice at restaurants across town. They went shopping on Saturday while Brandon told Simone he had to work an open house. Every lie was documented. Every betrayal captured in photos with timestamps. The file was growing thick with evidence. On Wednesday evening, Simone was reviewing property reports in her home office when Brandon knocked on the door. Hey babe, you got a minute? He leaned against the doorframe, that charming smile on his face. Sure, what's up? Simone minimized her screen, which showed the Premier Holdings financial statements. I've been thinking about that investment opportunity one mentioned last month. The one I needed $5,000 for. Well, there's another chance to double down on it. If I put in another $5,000 now, the returns could be huge. We could finally start building real wealth. Simone looked at her husband. The apartment he'd rented with her first $5,000 was where he took Ashley. The lease showed he'd signed up for a year. And now he wanted more money to continue funding his affair. $5,000 is a lot, Simone said carefully. Can you show me the investment details? Brandon's smile faltered slightly. It's complicated. Real estate investment trust stuff. Technical. But I've done my research. This is a solid opportunity. I'd still like to see the paperwork. Simone, come on. Don't you trust me? I'm the real estate professional here. I know what I'm doing. There it was. The manipulation. Making her feel bad for asking reasonable questions. Making her doubt herself. Simone had fallen for it before. Not anymore. Of course I trust you, she lied smoothly. I just want to understand where our money is going. We're married. We should make financial decisions together. Brandon's jaw tightened. Fine. I'll get you the paperwork. But we need to move fast on this. The opportunity won't last forever. How fast? By Friday. I need to transfer the money by Friday. Simone nodded. Okay. Show me the documents, and if it looks good, we'll do it. Brandon left the office looking frustrated. Simone pulled up her secure portal. She sent a message to Nicole, husband asking for another $5,000. Claims it's for investment. Can you trace where the first payment went? Nicole's response came within an hour. Already traced it. Money went to the landlord of the apartment at 1847 Cedar Street, Unit 203. Security deposit and first month's rent. Checking what the additional $5,000 might be for. By Thursday morning, Nicole had the answer. Landlord shows 2 payments from your husband. First was $5,000 for security deposit and rent. Second payment of $4,000 was made last week for furniture. Checking area furniture stores now. Will update soon. Simone sat in her Premier Holdings office, staring at the information. Brandon had already spent $9,000 of her savings setting up an apartment for himself and Ashley. And now he wanted $5,000 more. Probably for bills or more furniture or maybe a trip he was planning with his mistress. Her phone buzzed with a text from Brandon. Found those investment documents. Sending them to your email now. Simone opened her email. The investment documents were hastily thrown together PDFs about REIT opportunities that anyone could find online. Nothing specific. Nothing that would require a $5,000 immediate investment. It was a terrible lie, not even well crafted. Did Brandon really think she was this stupid? Had she really seemed that naive to him? She forwarded the documents to Mr. Patterson with a note. Husband's attempt at financial fraud. For divorce file. Then she texted Brandon back. These look interesting. Let me think about it overnight. His response was immediate. We don't have time. This opportunity closes Friday. Simone didn't respond. Instead, she called Nicole. I want you to find out what the $5,000 is really for, Simone said. Check recent social media posts from Ashley Monroe. Check travel bookings. Check anything that might explain why he needs more money right now. On it, Nicole said. Give me until this evening. Simone spent the rest of the day in meetings with Premier Holdings development team, learning about the waterfront project. The scale of it was enormous. 250 luxury apartments, ground floor retail space, underground parking. Construction was scheduled to begin in 3 months. We'll need to promote the project soon, the marketing director said. Generate interest before the units go on sale. Do you have any thoughts on marketing approach? Simone considered. What was my great-uncle's vision for these apartments? High-end but ethical. He wanted to create a community, not just sell units. He insisted on including affordable housing units mixed into the development. 20% of the apartments will be priced for middle-income families. It's unusual for a luxury development, but Bernard felt it was important to serve the whole community. Simone smiled. That sounded exactly like something Uncle Bernard would do. Then that's our marketing angle. Yes, we're offering luxury, but we're also building a real community. Mixed income, diverse, inclusive. Make it about people, not just profit. The marketing director nodded enthusiastically. I love that. It sets us apart from every other luxury development in the city. By 5 o'clock, Simone was exhausted but satisfied. She was learning fast and the team respected her. She'd made several good decisions that day, trusting her instincts and her values. Her phone rang as she was packing up to leave. Nicole. I found it, Nicole said. Ashley posted on her private social media about a trip to Cabo San Lucas next month. A friend commented asking if Brandon was going too. Ashley replied, yes. Can't wait, with heart emojis. I checked flight bookings. Your husband used his credit card to book 2 tickets to Cabo for next month. Total cost, $4,800. The credit card I don't know about? Simone asked. The one in his name only, yes. The one he claimed was just for business expenses. He's been using it for the affair. Hotels, restaurants, gifts. Total spending in the past 8 months is over $23,000. $23,000. Simone felt sick. While she'd been pinching pennies, worried about their budget, carefully saving what she could. Brandon had been spending wildly on his mistress. Thank you, Nicole. Add it to the file. Simone, you have enough evidence now. More than enough for divorce proceedings. You could move forward anytime. I know, but I'm not ready yet. I want everything documented. Every lie. Every dollar. When I confront him, I want it to be so complete, so thorough that he can't deny anything. He can't minimize anything. He has to face the full scope of what he's done. All right. We'll keep gathering evidence. But be careful. The longer you wait, the harder this might be on you emotionally. I can handle it, Simone said. She meant it. That night, Brandon came home at 8 o'clock, claiming he'd been showing properties all evening. Simone had made his favorite dinner again. Pot roast with potatoes. She watched him eat, wondering how he could sit across from her and lie so easily. So, about that investment, Brandon said between bites. Did you think about it? I did, Simone said. And I want to help you, Brandon. I really do. But $5,000 is all of my remaining savings. If I give you that, we'll have nothing for emergencies. Brandon's expression hardened. This is an emergency. An emergency opportunity. You're always so cautious, Simone. So afraid of taking risks. That's why you're still just a bookkeeper. Some of us have ambition. The words were meant to hurt. They would have hurt a week ago. Now they just made Simone more determined. You're right, she said quietly. I'm cautious, but I'm also careful. I need to protect us financially. There is no us financially. Brandon snapped, then seemed to catch himself. He softened his tone. I make most of the money in this household. I should be able to make investment decisions without you questioning everything. Simone stood and started clearing dishes. I'll transfer the money tomorrow. Brandon's mood immediately improved. Really? Thank you, babe. You won't regret this. I promise. I'm sure I won't, Simone said. She wouldn't regret it because she wasn't actually going to give him the money. Not for his trip to Cabo with Ashley. Not for anything. After Brandon fell asleep that night, Simone lay awake making plans. Tomorrow was Friday. She'd tell Brandon there was a problem with the bank transfer. She'd stall until after his supposed investment deadline passed. Then she'd watch him scramble. But more importantly, she'd schedule a company-wide meeting for Monday. As the new CEO, she wanted to introduce herself to all employees. She wanted to outline her vision for Premier Holdings. She wanted to make it clear that ethics mattered, that integrity was required, that anyone not meeting those standards would be held accountable. Brandon would be in that meeting. He'd sit in the audience with all the other agents, having no idea that his wife was about to walk onto that stage. Having no idea that everything was about to change. Simone smiled in the darkness. She wasn't the woman Brandon thought she was. She wasn't convenient or trusting or not smart. She was strategic. She was patient. She was powerful. And on Monday, Brandon was going to find out exactly who he'd been underestimating for 5 years. The setup was complete. The evidence was compiled. The trap was ready. All that remained was watching it close around the man who'd thought he could betray her without consequences. Brandon wanted $5,000 for a trip to Cabo with his mistress. Instead, he was going to lose everything. His marriage, his job, his reputation, his future. And Simone was going to make sure he understood that every loss was his own fault. Every consequence was deserved. Every bit of pain he felt was nothing compared to what he'd inflicted on her. Justice was coming. And Brandon had no idea it would arrive wearing her face. Friday morning, Simone woke up before Brandon. She made coffee, got dressed for work at her accounting firm where she'd given notice earlier that week, and watched her husband sleep. He looked peaceful, untroubled. In a few days, that peace would be shattered forever. When Brandon woke, his first words were, "Did you transfer the money?" "I tried," Simone said. "But there's a hold on the account." Bank security flagged the transfer as unusual. "They want us to come in person to verify it." It was a lie. Simone had moved her savings to a new account Brandon didn't know about. But he believed her because he'd always believed her. She was convenient and trusting after all. "Are you serious?" Brandon's face reddened. "The deadline is today." "I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do." The bank said it would take 3 business days to clear the hold. Brandon swore and grabbed his phone. Simone left him fuming in the bedroom and went to work at her old accounting firm for one of her final days. She'd given her 2 weeks' notice, telling her boss she had a family situation that required her full attention. Her boss had been understanding, even throwing her a small going-away lunch on Wednesday. Throughout the day, Brandon sent increasingly angry texts. "This is ridiculous. You need to fix this. Call the bank again. This opportunity is going to pass us by because you can't handle simple finances. Simone didn't respond to any of them. Let him be angry. Let him panic. Let him feel out of control for once. At noon, she met with Mr. Patterson for lunch at a quiet restaurant far from Premier Holdings. Monday is the company-wide meeting, he confirmed. All employees are required to attend. We've sent out the memo. Everyone knows there's a new owner who wants to address the company. Does it say who the new owner is? Simone asked. No. Just that Bernard Foster's heir will be introducing themselves and outlining their vision for the company's future. Good. I want it to be a surprise. The board is supportive. Patricia especially. She's been calling board members all week, making sure everyone understands that you have their full backing. She really believes in you, Simone. I'm grateful for that. And I'm ready. I've spent the past week learning everything I can. I've read every policy manual, every ethics guideline, every complaint report. I know exactly what kind of company Uncle Bernard built, and I know what I need to do to protect that legacy. Mr. Patterson smiled. He chose well. I had my doubts at first, I'll admit. Taking over a major corporation with no experience is daunting. But you've approached this with such diligence and humility. You ask questions. You listen. You learn. Those are the qualities that matter most. After lunch, Simone went to Premier Holdings using her private entrance. She spent the afternoon in her office, reviewing the presentation she'd prepared for Monday. She'd practiced it a dozen times, making sure every word was right. The presentation would start with Uncle Bernard's values. Then she'd outline her commitment to maintaining those values. Then she'd discuss the new waterfront development and her vision for Premier Holdings' future. And finally, she'd make it clear that anyone not meeting the company's ethical standards would be terminated immediately. She didn't mention Brandon specifically in the presentation. She didn't need to. Everyone in compliance and HR knew about the complaints against him. When she announced the new zero-tolerance policy, they'd know exactly who it applied to. At 5 o'clock, Patricia Reynolds knocked on Simone's office door. "Do you have a moment?" Patricia asked. "Of course. Please come in." Patricia sat across from Simone's desk. She was a distinguished woman in her 60s, with gray hair styled elegantly and eyes that missed nothing. "I wanted to talk to you about Monday," Patricia said. "I know you're planning to address ethical standards. I think that's admirable. But you should be prepared for pushback. From the board. No, the board supports you. From employees who've been getting away with cutting corners. They'll resist change. They'll argue that strict ethics hurt profits. They'll say you're too inexperienced to understand how real estate really works. Let them argue," Simone said calmly. "I'm not here to win a popularity contest. I'm here to run a company with integrity." Patricia smiled. "That's the right answer. But there's something else. Your husband works here." Simone's expression didn't change. "I'm aware. Bernard had concerns about his performance. I shared those concerns. But Bernard died before he could address the situation. Now you're in charge and you'll need to decide what to do about Brandon." "I know what I'm doing about Brandon," Simone said. "But I'd rather not discuss it until after Monday's meeting." Patricia studied her for a long moment. "You've changed in the past week. When we first met, you seemed uncertain, overwhelmed. Now you seem determined, focused. What happened?" Simone considered how much to reveal. "I learned something important. I learned that people will underestimate you if you let them. They'll take advantage of your kindness, your trust, your willingness to believe the best in them. I've spent too long letting that happen. Not anymore." "Good," Patricia said. "This business requires strength. Not cruelty but strength. The ability to make hard decisions and stand by them. I think you have that ability." After Patricia left, Simone looked out at the city. Monday was 3 days away. 3 days until everything changed. 3 days until Brandon's world collapsed. Her phone rang. "Nicole. I have an update on the Cabo trip," Nicole said. "Brandon tried to book it using a different credit card. He was declined. Looks like he's maxed out all his credit. So he can't afford the trip without my money?" "Correct. And there's more. Ashley is upset. She posted on social media that her partner isn't keeping his promises. Reading between the lines, I think she's pressuring him to leave you. She wants commitment and Brandon keeps stalling." Simone felt a grim satisfaction. Brandon's double life was becoming complicated. He couldn't afford to maintain his affair without her money. Ashley was getting impatient. Everything was falling apart for him, and he had no idea the worst was yet to come. Keep monitoring, Simone said. I want to know everything leading up to Monday. That evening, Brandon came home looking stressed. His usual confident demeanor was cracking. We need to talk, he said. Simone turned from the stove where she was cooking dinner. About what? Money. Our finances. We need to make some changes. What kind of changes? Brandon sat at the kitchen table, running his hands through his hair. I think we should sell the house. Simone froze. What? We bought it 3 years ago for $320. The market's up. We could sell for $400, maybe more. That's $80,000 profit after paying off the mortgage. We split it, each take $40,000. We could both start fresh. Start fresh. He meant leave her. He was planning his exit, trying to extract as much money as possible before he walked away. Brandon, this is our home, Simone said carefully. Why would we sell it? I just think. I don't know. I've been feeling stuck lately. Like we're in a rut. Maybe we need a change. A change like what? Maybe we should take some time apart. Figure out what we really want. There it was. The beginning of his exit strategy. He wanted time apart, which would become a separation, which would become a divorce. Meanwhile, he'd pocket $40,000 from the house sale and start his new life with Ashley. Simone turned back to the stove so Brandon wouldn't see her expression. I think that's a conversation for when we're both less stressed. Let's table it for now. Simone. I said let's table it. Her voice was firm. I've had a long week and I'm not making major life decisions when I'm exhausted. Brandon backed off, but he looked frustrated. His plan wasn't working. He couldn't get the money for Cabo. He couldn't convince his wife to sell the house. His carefully constructed double life was becoming unsustainable. Let him suffer. Let him feel the pressure of his own lies closing in around him. They ate dinner in tense silence. Afterwards, Brandon retreated to his phone, probably texting Ashley, probably trying to explain why their trip was delayed, why he couldn't leave his wife yet. Simone cleaned up and went to her home office. She pulled up the security feeds from Premier Holdings. Even though it was after hours, she could access archived footage. She searched for Brandon's office and watched recordings from the past week. She saw him on phone calls, probably personal ones disguised as business. She saw him leaving early multiple times. She saw him in the break room with other agents, laughing and joking, looking like a regular successful employee. No one would guess his life was built on lies. On Monday, all those co-workers would watch him get exposed. They'd see the confident Brandon Clark revealed as an unethical agent who'd violated company policies repeatedly. They'd watch him be terminated by his own wife. Simone wondered how Brandon would react. Would he try to defend himself? Would he be angry? Embarrassed? Would he finally understand that he'd been underestimating her all along? She didn't know, but she was going to find out. Sunday evening, Simone laid out her clothes for Monday's meeting. She chose a navy suit, professional and authoritative. She styled her hair in a neat bun. She practiced her presentation one final time in front of the mirror. The woman looking back at her was not the same woman who'd sat in Mr. Patterson's office 2 weeks ago, devastated by security footage of her husband's betrayal. This woman was stronger, harder, ready. Brandon was in the living room watching television, oblivious. Simone walked past him to the kitchen and poured herself a glass of wine. She stood at the window, looking out at the night sky, thinking about everything that had led to this moment. 5 years of marriage. 5 years of trust and partnership, or so she thought. 5 years of building a life together, except Brandon had been building something else entirely. Something selfish and cruel. Tomorrow that would all end. Tomorrow Brandon would face the consequences of every lie, every betrayal, every time he'd called her convenient and too trusting and not smart enough to figure him out. Tomorrow Simone would show him exactly how wrong he'd been. She finished her wine and went to bed. Brandon was already asleep, snoring softly. Simone lay beside him one last time, knowing this was likely the last night they'd share this bed. Tomorrow everything would change. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't scared. She was ready. Power had shifted. Brandon just didn't know it yet. But tomorrow he would learn. Tomorrow, the convenient, trusting, not smart wife would reveal herself as the CEO who controlled his entire professional world. And there was nothing he could do to stop what was coming. Monday morning arrived bright and clear. Simone woke at 6, careful not to disturb Brandon. She showered, dressed in her navy suit, and styled her hair with meticulous care. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a CEO. She saw power. She saw justice preparing to be served. Brandon woke at 7, groggy and irritable. "Why are you so dressed up?" he asked, noticing her professional attire. Meeting with my old boss about exit paperwork, Simone lied smoothly. I want to look professional. Right. Hey, there's some company meeting at Premier Holdings this morning. New owner introducing themselves or something. Mandatory attendance. He rolled his eyes. Probably some corporate heir who knows nothing about real estate. Going to waste an hour of my time. Simone turned away to hide her smile. Sounds annoying. It is. I have actual work to do. But they're requiring everyone to be there. 9 o'clock sharp. He checked his phone. Ashley's annoyed too. She was hoping we could meet for coffee this morning. He said it so casually, so carelessly. Mentioning his mistress's name to his wife, not even realizing what he'd revealed. Or maybe he did realize and just didn't care anymore. Maybe he'd gotten so comfortable with his double life that he wasn't even trying to hide it. Well, hopefully the meeting won't take too long, Simone said. Brandon got ready quickly, his usual routine of expensive cologne and perfectly styled hair. He kissed Simone's cheek on his way out the door. See you tonight. See you, Simone said. But she knew that wasn't true. He wouldn't see her tonight. Not in their house. Not as his wife. Everything was about to change. She waited until Brandon's car pulled out of the driveway, then grabbed her briefcase and headed to Premier Holdings. She used the private executive entrance, taking the elevator straight to the 30th floor. Mr. Patterson and Patricia were already in her office. Ready? Patricia asked. More than ready, Simone replied. The conference room is filling up. We have about 200 employees attending. Everyone's curious about who inherited the company. Patricia smiled. You're going to make quite an impression. That's the plan. At 8:45, Simone walked to the conference room entrance but stayed out of sight. Through the glass doors, she could see rows of chairs filling with Premier Holdings employees. The room buzzed with conversation, speculation about the new owner. She spotted Brandon in the third row, sitting with a group of other agents. He was texting on his phone, looking bored. He had no idea his wife was 30 feet away watching him. At 9 o'clock sharp, Mr. Patterson entered the conference room and walked to the podium. The room quieted. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. As you all know, we've gathered to meet the new owner of Premier Holdings. Bernard Foster built this company on principles of integrity, ethics, and excellence. Before he passed, he chose someone he believed would carry on those values. I'm honored to introduce you to Premier Holdings' new CEO and majority owner. Mr. Patterson gestured toward the door where Simone stood. Please welcome Simone Clark. Simone walked into the conference room, her heels clicking on the floor. She kept her eyes forward, walking confidently to the podium. She could feel the eyes of 200 employees on her, could hear the confused whispers starting. But she only cared about one person's reaction. She looked directly at Brandon. His face went through a series of emotions in rapid succession. Confusion. Disbelief. Horror. His phone clattered to the floor. He stared at her like he was seeing a ghost. Simone smiled and began her presentation. Good morning. I'm Simone Clark, Bernard Foster's great niece and the new owner of Premier Holdings. I know this comes as a surprise to many of you. It certainly surprised me 2 weeks ago when I learned about my inheritance. She clicked to the next slide, which showed a photo of Uncle Bernard. My great-uncle built this company over 40 years through hard work, ethical practices, and a commitment to doing right by clients and employees. He believed that success without integrity was meaningless. I intend to honor that belief. Another click. The slide showed Premier Holdings' core values: integrity, excellence, service, accountability. These aren't just words on a wall. These are the standards every employee of Premier Holdings must meet. If you're working here, you're representing decades of reputation and trust. That's a responsibility I take seriously, and I expect all of you to take it seriously as well. She could see Brandon trying to catch her eye, but she ignored him, focusing on the rest of the room. I've spent the past 2 weeks reviewing our operations, our properties, and our employee files. What I've found has been mostly encouraging. We have talented people doing excellent work. But I've also found concerning patterns. Complaints that weren't properly addressed. Ethical violations that were overlooked because someone brought in revenue. That ends today. The room was completely silent now. Some employees looked nervous. Others looked relieved. Effective immediately, Premier Holdings has a zero-tolerance policy for ethical violations. If you misrepresent properties, if you pressure clients into deals that don't serve their interests, if you cut corners on inspections, if you violate any of our company policies, you will be terminated. I don't care how much revenue you bring in. Character matters more than commissions. Simone paused, letting her words sink in. I know some of you might think I'm too inexperienced to run this company. That's fair. I'm learning. But I know right from wrong. And I know the difference between building a business on solid ground versus building it on lies. We're going to be the former, always. She clicked to the next slide, which showed renderings of the waterfront development. This is our next major project. Luxury apartments with a community focus. 20% affordable. Housing mixed in. We're not just building for profit. We're building for people. That's what Bernard Foster believed, and that's what I believe. The presentation continued for another 20 minutes. Simone outlined her vision, her expectations, her commitment to Premier Holdings' legacy. She was calm, clear, authoritative. The room responded to her confidence. When she finished, she invited questions. Several hands went up. She answered questions about the development timeline, about company policies, about her background. She was honest about her limited experience but firm about her values. Brandon didn't raise his hand. He sat frozen in his chair, still staring at her in shock. Finally, Simone said, "Thank you all for being here. I look forward to working with each of you to build on the strong foundation Bernard Foster created." Meeting adjourned. The room slowly emptied, employees filing out, talking among themselves. Brandon remained in his seat. When the last person left, he finally stood and walked toward the podium. "Simone," he started. "Mr. Clark, please wait here. Human Resources needs to speak with you. They'll be in shortly." Her voice was cold, professional. Not his wife's voice. A CEO's voice. "Simone, please let me explain." "There's nothing to explain. Everything I need to know has already been documented." The conference room door opened. A woman from HR entered, along with Mr. Patterson and a security guard. "Mr. Brandon Clark," the HR representative said, "please come with us. We need to discuss several matters regarding your employment." Brandon looked between Simone and the HR representative. "What is this?" "Simone, what's happening?" "You're being terminated," Simone said simply, "for multiple violations of company policy. The details are in your termination package, which you'll receive in the next room." "Terminated? You're firing me? Your husband?" "I'm terminating an employee who violated the ethics standards of my company. The fact that you're my husband is irrelevant to your job performance, which has been substandard." "Substandard? I'm one of the top agents here. I bring in millions. You misrepresent properties. You pressure clients inappropriately. You've had 17 complaints filed against you in the past year. You use company resources for personal benefit." Simone's voice remained calm. "Did you think I wouldn't find out? Did you think I'd let it slide because we're married?" Brandon's face flushed red. "You can't do this." "I can, and I am. You're also being served with divorce papers." Simone nodded to Mr. Patterson, who handed Brandon a manila envelope. "All evidence is attached. Security footage from the Riverside condominiums. Financial records showing misuse of marital funds. Text messages detailing your 8-month affair with Ashley Monroe. Bank records showing the secret apartment you rented using money you asked me for under false pretenses." Brandon's hands shook as he took the envelope. When did you?" 2 weeks ago. The same day I inherited this company. I've spent the past 2 weeks gathering evidence, learning my business, and preparing for this moment. You called me convenient. Too trusting. Not smart enough to figure out what you were doing." Simone stepped closer to him. "You were wrong about all of that. Simone, please. I love you. I made mistakes, but we can fix this." "No, we can't. You don't love me, Brandon. You never did. You loved the convenience. You loved having someone to come home to while you built your secret life. But love? Real love? You don't know what that means." The security guard stepped forward. "Mr. Clark, I need to escort you out of the building. You have 15 minutes to clean out your desk." Brandon looked desperate now. "What about Ashley? Does she know?" "Ms. Monroe's bank has been notified about the insider information she provided you regarding loan approvals. That's a federal violation. Her employment is under review." Simone's expression didn't change. "Your poor choices affected more than just me, Brandon. They affected clients, they affected this company, and they affected everyone who trusted you." Brandon was escorted out of the conference room. Simone watched him go, feeling nothing. No sadness. No regret. Just a sense of completion. Patricia entered the conference room. "That was masterfully handled. Thank you. How are you feeling?" "Relieved. I've been holding this in for 2 weeks. It's good to finally have it out in the open. The staff will talk, you know." Word will spread that you fired your own husband. Let them talk. They'll also see that I meant what I said about ethics and accountability. No one gets special treatment, not even my husband. Especially not my husband. Simone gathered her presentation materials. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nicole. Saw the news. Well done. Do you still need my services? Simone texted back, yes. Continue documenting for the divorce proceedings. Thank you. Throughout the rest of the day, Simone worked in her office, meeting with department heads, reviewing contracts, handling business. She was professional, focused, and in control. The fact that she just ended her marriage and destroyed her husband's career didn't show on her face. At 5 o'clock, Mr. Patterson knocked on her door. Brandon tried to come back into the building. Security stopped him. He was demanding to see you. What did you tell him? That all communication needs to go through your lawyer. He left, but he looked broken. Good, Simone said. She didn't feel guilty. Brandon had broken their marriage vows. He'd broken her trust. He called her stupid and convenient. Now he was experiencing the consequences of his own actions. That evening, Simone went to a hotel. She wasn't ready to go back to the house yet. She needed space, time to process everything that had happened. She ordered room service, poured herself a glass of wine, and sat by the window looking out at the city lights. Her phone rang. Brandon. She didn't answer. He called 3 more times. Then the text started. Please talk to me. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. You can't just throw away 5 years of marriage. I love you. I'm sorry. Simone blocked his number. She didn't need to hear his apologies or his excuses. He'd had 8 months to think about their marriage while he was with Ashley. He'd had 5 years to treat her with respect and honesty. He'd chosen lies instead. Now he could live with those choices. The divorce proceedings would take time, but Mr. Patterson had assured her it would be straightforward given the evidence. Brandon couldn't claim he deserved half of Premier Holdings. That was Simone's inheritance, not marital property. The house would be sold and proceeds split, but Simone didn't care about that. She could buy 100 houses now if she wanted. What mattered was that she'd taken back her power. She'd stopped being the convenient, trusting wife who accepted whatever Brandon told her. She'd become the woman Uncle Bernard believed she could be. Strong, principled, uncompromising when it came to integrity. Simone finished her wine and prepared for bed. Tomorrow she'd return to Premier Holdings and continue building the company. She'd meet with the development team about the waterfront project. She'd review more properties. She'd learn more about her business. Her life was just beginning. The real one. Not the false life she'd been living with Brandon, built on his lies and her misplaced trust. This was real. This was hers. And she was going to make the most of it. The next morning, Simone returned to the house to collect some clothes and personal items. She decided to stay at the hotel for a while, needing space from the memories this house held. When she pulled into the driveway, Brandon's BMW was there. She took a deep breath and walked to the door. Inside, she found Brandon sitting at the kitchen table, looking like he hadn't slept. Empty coffee cups surrounded him. He jumped up when she entered. Simone, thank God. I've been calling you. I blocked your number. Any communication needs to go through my lawyer like you were told. How can you be so cold? We're married. We need to talk about this. There's nothing to talk about. Simone walked past him toward the bedroom. Brandon followed her. Yes, there is. You can't just fire me and divorce me and expect me to accept it. We have history. We have a life together. We had a lie together, Simone corrected, pulling a suitcase from the closet. You've been cheating on me for 8 months. You've been stealing my money to fund your affair. You've been violating ethics at work. None of that is up for discussion. It's all documented. It was a mistake. Ashley means nothing. It was just, I don't know, a stupid mistake. Simone turned to face him. 8 months isn't a mistake, Brandon. It's a choice. Multiple choices. Every time you texted her. Every time you met her at that condo. Every time you came home and lied to my face. Those were all choices. Okay, yes, I made bad choices. But people make mistakes. Marriages survive infidelity all the time. We can go to counseling. We can work through this. I don't want to work through this. Simone packed her clothes methodically. I don't want to spend years trying to rebuild trust with someone who called me convenient, and too trusting, and not smart enough. You didn't just cheat on me, Brandon. You disrespected me. You mocked me to your mistress. You made me feel small while you were stealing from me. I never stole. $9,000 for an apartment you claimed was an investment. $5,000 more you tried to get for a trip to Cabo with Ashley. $23,000 spent on your affair using credit cards I didn't know about. How is that not stealing? Brandon's face went pale. You know about Cabo? I know everything. Private investigators are very thorough. Simone continued packing. I know about every hotel you stayed at, every restaurant you took her to, every gift you bought her. I have photos, videos, text messages, financial records. I have more evidence than any divorce court could ask for. You hired investigators? You've been spying on me? I've been documenting your adultery. There's a difference. Brandon sat on the bed, his head in his hands. I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe you did this. You did this, Simone said firmly. You made every choice that led to this moment. I just refuse to be a victim of those choices. What am I supposed to do now? You fired me. I have no job, no income. How am I supposed to live? That's not my problem. You're 35 years old. You have a real estate license, though after the complaints I've filed with the licensing board about your unethical practices, that might not last long. But that's the consequence of your actions, not my responsibility. The licensing board? You reported me? I reported every client you pressured, every property you misrepresented, every shortcut you took. Premier Holdings has a reputation to protect. I won't let your misconduct taint my company. Your company, Brandon repeated bitterly. So that's what this is about. You got power and now you're wielding it against me. No, this is about justice. If you were any other employee with your track record, you would have been fired months ago. Uncle Bernard was planning to terminate you before he died. I just finished what he started. So you're playing the avenging CEO? Getting revenge. I'm running a business ethically. You happen to be someone who violated those ethics. Simone zipped up her suitcase. The fact that you betrayed me personally just made it easier to see your professional misconduct clearly. Brandon stood up, blocking her path to the door. Simone, please. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But destroying my career? Ruining my professional reputation? That's going too far. You destroyed your own career, Simone said, her voice icy. Every complaint filed against you was legitimate. Every client you misled has documentation. You did this to yourself. I need my job. I need income. I have bills, rent on the apartment. The apartment you rented for your affair? That's not my concern. You're really going to leave me with nothing? I'm leaving you with exactly what you deserve. The consequences of your choices. Simone stepped around him. Now move or I'll call the police for harassment. Brandon moved. Simone walked out of the bedroom with her suitcase, down the stairs and toward the front door. Brandon followed, his voice rising. What about us? What about our marriage? You're just giving up? Simone stopped at the door and turned to face him one last time. You gave up on our marriage when you started sleeping with Ashley. You gave up when you called me convenient. You gave up when you stole from me to fund your affair. I'm just acknowledging what you already decided 8 months ago. I want to fight for us. There is no us. There's you and there's me and we're getting divorced. The papers have been filed. Sign them or don't, but either way this marriage is over. You've changed, Brandon said, and for the first time she heard something other than self-pity in his voice. Fear. You're not the woman I married. You're right. The woman you married would have believed your lies. She would have blamed herself for your affair. She would have tried to fix something that wasn't her fault. That woman is gone, Brandon. You killed her when you betrayed her. What's left is someone who knows her worth. Someone who won't tolerate disrespect. Someone who owns a $2 billion company and doesn't need anything from you. Simone opened the door. I'll have movers come for the rest of my things. Don't contact me. Don't come to Premier Holdings. All communication goes through lawyers. If you violate that, I'll get a restraining order. Simone. She closed the door on his voice and walked to her car. Her hands were shaking as she started the engine, but not from sadness. From adrenaline. From the power of finally saying everything she needed to say. She drove to Premier Holdings, parked in her designated spot, and took the private elevator to her office. The view from the 30th floor never got old. The city spread out below her, full of possibilities. Mr. Patterson knocked and entered. How did it go? About as expected. He's in denial. Thinks we can fix things through counseling. And what did you say? That there's nothing to fix. That he destroyed the marriage, not me. Simone sat behind her desk. He's upset about the licensing board complaints. Those were necessary. His conduct violated state regulations. Other agents need to know there are consequences for unethical behavior. I know. It's just strange. A month ago I was his wife. Now I'm the person dismantling his career. He dismantled his own career. You're just holding him accountable. Patricia appeared in the doorway. Sorry to interrupt. There's someone here to see you. Ashley Monroe. Simone raised her eyebrows. Really? Send her in. Ashley Monroe entered the office tentatively. She was younger than Simone had expected, 28 but looking younger. Blonde hair, nervous eyes, expensive clothes that didn't quite fit her personality. Miss Clark, Ashley began, I appreciate you seeing me. I didn't think I had a choice. You showed up at my company. Simone gestured to a chair. Sit if you want. Say what you came to say. Ashley sat on the edge of the chair. I want to apologize. For having an affair with my husband? For using insider bank information to help him close deals? For pressuring him to leave me? Which part exactly? All of it. I made terrible choices. I knew he was married and I did it anyway. I let him convince me that his marriage was already over, that you two were just roommates waiting for the right time to separate. And you believed that? Simone asked. I wanted to believe it. Brandon was charming. He made me feel special. He talked about our future together. Ashley looked down at her hands. I was stupid. You were complicit, Simone corrected. There's a difference. Being stupid means you didn't know better. Being complicit means you knew it was wrong and did it anyway. You're right. I knew it was wrong. I just didn't think about the consequences. Well, now you're experiencing them. How's your job at the bank? Ashley's eyes filled with tears. I was terminated. The review found that I violated banking ethics by sharing client information with Brandon. My banking license is being revoked. I can't work in finance anymore. Good, Simone said without sympathy. That's what happens when you break the law to help your married boyfriend. I know. I deserved it. I wanted to apologize to you in person. I wanted you to know that I feel terrible about what I did. You feel terrible because you got caught. If Brandon had successfully left me and started a life with you, would you feel terrible then? Ashley didn't answer. That's what I thought. Simone leaned back in her chair. Here's the reality, Ashley. You slept with a married man. You helped him steal from his wife. You pressured him to leave a 5-year marriage. And now you're facing consequences. I don't feel sorry for you. I don't forgive you. And I don't need your apology. I understand, Ashley whispered. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you look like someone who's sorry she lost, not sorry she hurt people. Simone stood. You and Brandon deserve each other. You're both selfish people who put your desires above ethics and honesty. The difference is I'm done being affected by either of you. Brandon keeps calling me, Ashley said quietly. He wants us to be together now. He says since his marriage is over anyway, we can finally be a real couple. Simone laughed. It wasn't a happy sound. And, are you going to ride off into the sunset with my unemployed ex-husband who has no money and a ruined reputation? No. I told him I can't see him anymore. I need to focus on rebuilding my career. I need to figure out what I'm going to do with my life now. Ashley looked up at Simone. He's very angry about that. He said I used him. The irony. Simone walked to the door and opened it. This conversation is over. Security will escort you out. Don't come back here. Don't contact me. Don't contact Brandon at this address. Are we clear? Yes. I'm sorry. I really am. I don't care, Simone said. Goodbye, Ashley. After Ashley left, Simone sat in her office feeling a strange sense of closure. She'd confronted Brandon. She'd faced his mistress. She'd said everything she needed to say. Now it was time to move forward. Patricia appeared in the doorway again. You handled that well. Ashley looked devastated. She should be devastated. She made terrible choices. So did Brandon, yet you seem less angry at him than at her. Simone thought about that. Brandon betrayed me directly. That hurt. But Ashley didn't owe me loyalty. She was just a selfish person who made selfish choices. I expected better from my husband. I expected nothing from her, so her behavior doesn't surprise me as much. Fair enough. For what it's worth, I think you're handling this entire situation with remarkable grace. I don't feel graceful. I feel angry and betrayed and vindicated all at once. That's normal. But you're not letting those feelings control you. You're still running this company professionally. That takes strength. Simone looked out at the city. Uncle Bernard gave me more than a company. He gave me the power to change my circumstances. Without this inheritance, I'd probably still be trying to fix my marriage, thinking it was my fault Brandon cheated. Instead, you're the CEO who fired her cheating husband and is building an empire. I'd say that's quite a transformation. It's not finished yet. The divorce proceedings will take months. Brandon will probably fight me on everything out of spite. And I still have a company to learn and a waterfront development to manage. The hard part is just beginning. But you're ready for it, Patricia said confidently. That's what matters. After Patricia left, Simone spent the rest of the day working. She reviewed property reports, met with the legal team about contracts, and discussed marketing strategies for the waterfront project. She was busy, focused, and in control. At 7 o'clock, she returned to her hotel room. She ordered room service and poured herself wine. She sat by the window and thought about everything that had happened in the past 3 weeks. 3 weeks ago, she'd been a bookkeeper with a modest life and what she thought was a stable marriage. Now she was a CEO with a billion-dollar empire and a divorce in progress. Her entire world had changed. But she didn't regret any of it. Yes, Brandon's betrayal hurt. Yes, discovering the extent of his lies was painful. But that pain had led her here to this moment, where she was finally living authentically. No more pretending. No more accepting disrespect. No more being convenient and too trusting. She was Simone Clark, CEO of Premier Holdings. She was powerful, intelligent, and done being underestimated. And her life was just beginning. The weeks following the confrontation were a blur of legal meetings, business decisions, and late nights at the office. Simone threw herself into work, finding that the complexity of running Premier Holdings helped distract her from the emotional aftermath of ending her marriage. The divorce proceedings began in earnest. Brandon hired an aggressive lawyer who tried to claim Brandon deserved a portion of Premier Holdings since Simone had inherited it during their marriage. Mr. Patterson shut that down immediately. Inheritance is separate property under state law, not marital property. Mr. Clark has no claim to the company whatsoever. Brandon's lawyer then argued for significant alimony, claiming Brandon had sacrificed his career potential to support Simone during their marriage. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Brandon had been fired for unethical conduct, not because he'd sacrificed anything. We have documented evidence of Mr. Clark's affair, his misuse of marital funds, and his professional misconduct, Mr. Patterson told Simone. His alimony claim is absurd. We'll countersue for the money he spent on his affair. Do it, Simone said. I want every dollar he stole from me returned. As the legal battle played out, Simone focused on Premier Holdings. The waterfront development was progressing well. She'd approved the architectural plans and met with the contractors. Ground was scheduled to break in 6 weeks. She also implemented sweeping changes to company policy. A new ethics hotline was established where employees or clients could report concerns anonymously. Quarterly ethics training became mandatory. The entire sales team was required to take a refresher course on state real estate regulations. Some employees resisted the changes. A few senior agents complained that Simone was making their jobs harder with unnecessary rules. 2 agents quit, claiming the new standards were impossible to meet. Good, Patricia said when she heard. If basic ethics are too challenging, they shouldn't be in real estate. The rest of the team adapted. Simone noticed that client satisfaction scores actually improved under the new policies. When agents focused on serving clients honestly rather than maximizing commissions, clients trusted them more and referred others. 1 month after Brandon's termination, Simone was working late when her phone rang. Nicole from Diamond Investigations. Just wanted to give you a final update, Nicole said. Brandon has been trying to get hired at other real estate companies. He's been turned down by every major firm in the city. Word has spread about why he was terminated from Premier Holdings. What about the licensing board review? Simone asked. His license has been suspended pending investigation of the complaints you filed. Multiple former clients have come forward with additional complaints about his conduct. It's not looking good for him. And Ashley? She moved to another state. Oregon, I think. She's working retail while trying to figure out what career she can pursue without a banking license. Brandon tried to contact her multiple times, but she blocked him. So they're not together? Definitely not. According to Brandon's social media, which he's unfortunately made public, he's been ranting about how both you and Ashley betrayed him. He's painted himself as the victim in all of this. Simone wasn't surprised. Some people never take accountability for their own actions. True. Anyway, unless you need anything else, I'm closing your file. The evidence has been compiled and delivered to your legal team. You have everything you need for the divorce proceedings. Thank you, Nicole. You were incredibly helpful. Good luck, Simone. And congratulations on the company. You've done well. After hanging up, Simone looked out at the city lights. Brandon was struggling to find work, facing potential license revocation, and dealing with the consequences of his choices. Part of her felt a twinge of something, not quite sympathy, but an acknowledgement that his life had fallen apart. But then she remembered the security footage of him calling her convenient and too trusting. She remembered the text to Ashley about how easy it would be to leave his not-smart wife. She remembered the $9,000 he'd stolen from her savings. Her sympathy vanished. Brandon was experiencing the natural consequences of his actions. Nothing more, nothing less. 2 months after the initial confrontation, the house sold. The market was strong and they got their asking price of $410,000. After paying off the mortgage and realtor fees, there was $86,000 left to split. Brandon's lawyer tried to argue he deserved more than half, but the judge wasn't having it. The house was jointly owned. The proceeds will be split equally. $43,000 to each party. Simone didn't care about the money. $43,000 was nothing compared to what she now had. But it was the principle. Brandon didn't deserve more than his fair share of anything. The divorce was scheduled to be finalized in 4 months. Until then, they remained legally married but living completely separate lives. Brandon had moved into a small apartment across town, funded by his share of the house sale. Simone had found a beautiful condo in a Premier Holdings building. Ironically, the same building where Brandon used to meet Ashley, though a different floor and a much nicer unit. She decorated her new space carefully. Modern furniture, large windows with city views, her own home office where she could work on Premier Holdings business. It was the first space that felt truly hers in years. One evening, as she was arranging books on her new shelves, her phone rang. An unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but curiosity got the better of her. Hello? Simone, it's Brandon. Please don't hang up. She should have. Instead, she sighed. What do you want? I wanted to apologize. Really apologize, not just because of the divorce or the job, but because I hurt you. I was cruel. I said terrible things about you to Ashley. I treated you like you were less than what you are. And I'm sorry. Simone sat down on her new couch. Are you sorry because you feel bad or because you're facing consequences? I feel bad. I've had a lot of time to think about everything. About how I took you for granted. About how I justified the affair by telling myself our marriage wasn't good enough. But the truth is, our marriage failed because I failed it. Not you. Me. That's true, Simone said. You did fail it. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I know I destroyed everything. But I wanted you to know that I see that now. I see what I lost. And I'm sorry. Thank you for saying that, Simone said carefully. But an apology doesn't undo what happened. It doesn't give me back 5 years of trust. It doesn't erase the humiliation of knowing you mocked me to your mistress. It's just words, Brandon. I know. I wanted you to hear them anyway. I heard them. Is there anything else? Are you happy? Brandon asked. In your new life running the company, are you happy? Simone thought about it. I'm learning to be happy. I'm building something that matters. I'm surrounded by people who respect me. I'm making decisions based on my own values instead of trying to be convenient for someone else. So yes, I'm getting there. I'm glad. You deserve that. Yes, I do. Simone paused. Brandon, I hope you learn from this. I hope you become someone who treats people better. But I need you to understand, we're never going to be friends. We're never going to have some amicable post-divorce relationship. You hurt me too deeply for that. I understand. Good. Don't call me again. Let the lawyers handle everything else. Simone hung up. She sat on her couch for a long moment, processing the conversation. Brandon's apology had sounded genuine. Maybe he was finally taking accountability. Maybe losing everything had taught him something about his own behavior. But it didn't matter. Not to her. His growth or lack thereof was no longer her concern. She'd spent 5 years trying to be the wife he wanted. Now she was going to spend the rest of her life being the woman she wanted to be. 3 months after the confrontation, Premier Holdings held a gala to celebrate the groundbreaking of the waterfront development. Simone wore a stunning silver dress and stood before 300 guests, investors, business leaders, city officials, and Premier Holdings employees. My great-uncle Bernard Foster believed that business should serve communities, not just shareholders, she said in her speech. This development represents that belief. Yes, we're building luxury apartments, but we're also creating affordable housing. We're adding retail space that will employ local workers. We're designing green spaces for community use. We're building something that matters. The applause was genuine and enthusiastic. After her speech, Simone mingled with guests, fielding questions about the project and Premier Holdings' future. She felt confident in her element. Patricia appeared at her elbow. "There's someone I'd like you to meet. Terrence Williams, he's the lead architect on the waterfront project." Simone turned to see a tall man in his late 30s with kind eyes and an easy smile. "Miss Clark, it's an honor to finally meet you in person. We've been communicating by email, but this is much better. Call me Simone, please. And the honor is mine. The designs you created for this project are beautiful." "Thank you. I tried to capture your vision of community-focused development. It's refreshing to work with someone who cares about more than just profit margins." They talked about architecture, about the project, about sustainable building practices. Terrence was intelligent, passionate about his work, and genuinely interested in creating spaces that served people. He also treated Simone with respect, not condescending, not assuming she didn't understand technical concepts, just respectful. When the gala ended, Terrence said, "I hope we can meet again to discuss some design elements. There are a few details I'd like your input on." "I'd like that," Simone said. "Have your office schedule a meeting with my assistant." "I will. And Simone? For what it's worth, Bernard Foster made an excellent choice. This company is in good hands." As Simone drove home that night, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not just professional hope about the company, but personal hope about her future. She was building a life that was truly hers. She was making decisions that aligned with her values. She was becoming the woman she was always meant to be. Brandon had called her convenient, too trusting, not smart. He'd underestimated her in every possible way. But in doing so, he'd freed her. His betrayal had been the catalyst that revealed her true strength. His lies had been the darkness that made her own light shine brighter. She wasn't grateful for the pain he'd caused, but she was grateful for the person she'd become in spite of it. Strong, independent, powerful, uncompromising. The fallout from Brandon's betrayal had been extensive. Ended marriage, a destroyed career, damaged reputations, legal battles. But through all of it, Simone had emerged victorious. Not because she'd sought revenge, though justice had been served, but because she'd refused to let Brandon's choices define her worth. She was Simone Clark, CEO, business leader. Woman who'd taken betrayal and transformed it into power. Woman who'd taken underestimation and proved everyone wrong. And her story was just beginning. 6 months after that company-wide meeting where Simone had revealed herself as CEO and fired her husband, Premier Holdings had transformed significantly. The ethics policies were now deeply embedded in company culture. Client satisfaction was at an all-time high. The waterfront development was progressing on schedule. And Simone had become a different person. Not just professionally but personally. She carried herself with confidence now. She made decisions without second-guessing herself. She'd stopped apologizing for taking up space. The divorce had been finalized 3 weeks earlier. The judge had granted everything Simone's lawyers requested. No alimony for Brandon. Full return of the money he'd spent on his affair. A clean break with no financial ties remaining between them except the already split house proceeds. Brandon had tried to appeal, but his lawyer advised against it. "You have no grounds. The evidence against you is overwhelming. Accept the judgment and move on." Simone heard through Patricia that Brandon had finally found work at a small real estate office in a suburban area, selling modest homes for modest commissions. His license suspension had been lifted after he completed ethics training and paid several fines, but his reputation in the industry was ruined. He'd never work for a major firm again. Ashley had apparently started over in Oregon, working at a coffee shop while taking online courses to become a teacher. Her banking career was over, but she was trying to build something new. Simone felt nothing when she heard these updates. No satisfaction, no pity, nothing. Brandon and Ashley were simply people who'd made bad choices and were living with the consequences. They were no longer part of her story. What was part of her story was the empire she was building. Premier Holdings had acquired 2 more properties that quarter. The affordable housing initiative Simone had started was gaining national attention. Business magazines had written articles about her approach to ethical real estate development. She'd also been invited to speak at conferences about women in business, about taking over family companies, about maintaining values in profit-driven industries. She was becoming known not just as Bernard Foster's heir, but as a leader in her own right. One Tuesday morning, Simone was reviewing development plans when her assistant knocked. "Mr. Williams is here for your meeting." Terrence entered, carrying rolled-up blueprints. Over the past few months, They'd met regularly to discuss the waterfront project. Their professional relationship had developed into a genuine friendship. Terrence was brilliant but unpretentious, successful but kind. He reminded Simone what healthy professional collaboration felt like. "I have the revised plans for the community center," Terrence said, spreading the blueprints across her desk. "I incorporated all your feedback about making it accessible and inclusive." They spent an hour going over details. Terrence had designed a beautiful space that would serve as a hub for the entire development, not just for wealthy residents but for the whole neighborhood. There would be a community kitchen, meeting rooms available to local organizations, a small library, and a playground. "This is perfect," Simone said. "Exactly what Uncle Bernard would have wanted." "Your uncle had good instincts. So do you." Terrence rolled up the blueprints. "Do you have lunch plans? I thought we could grab something and discuss the timeline." "I don't have plans. Let's do it." They went to a small restaurant near Premier Holdings, sitting at a table by the window. The conversation flowed easily, moving from business to books to travel to life philosophies. Simone found herself laughing genuinely for the first time in what felt like forever. "Can I ask you something personal?" Terrence said over coffee. "Feel free to tell me, it's none of my business." "Go ahead." "Patricia mentioned you went through a divorce recently. Are you doing okay?" Simone considered her answer. "I'm doing better than okay. The divorce was the best thing that could have happened to me. It freed me from a relationship that was never healthy, even if I didn't see that at the time. That's a remarkably positive perspective. It took me a while to get here. I was angry for months, but anger is exhausting. Eventually, I realized I was letting my ex-husband take up space in my head rent-free. So I evicted him." She smiled. "Now I focus on building what I want instead of being angry about what I lost." "That's mature. A lot of people never get to that place." "What about you?" Simone asked. "Patricia mentioned you're not married." "Never have been. I was engaged once about 5 years ago. She was great, but we wanted different things. She wanted to settle down in her hometown. I wanted to travel for projects, keep taking on new challenges. We broke up amicably. We're still friends actually. That's rare. Most breakups don't end with friendship. It helps when both people are honest about what they want. Neither of us was wrong. We just weren't right for each other." Terrence looked at Simone carefully. "Can I be honest about something? Please. I like spending time with you. These meetings are the highlights of my week. And I know there's a professional boundary here. I'm an architect on your project, you're the CEO. But I'd like to spend time with you outside of work too. No pressure, no expectations. Just getting to know each other better." Simone felt her heart rate increase. She hadn't thought about dating, hadn't considered romance. She'd been so focused on rebuilding her life, running her company, healing from betrayal. But Terrence wasn't Brandon. He was direct and honest. He wasn't playing games or manipulating. He was simply expressing interest and giving her the power to decide. "I'd like that too," Simone said. "But I need to be honest with you. I'm still processing a lot from my marriage. I have trust issues. I'm not looking for anything serious right now." "That's fair. How about this? We start with friendship and see where it goes. No pressure. No timelines. Just two people enjoying each other's company." "That sounds perfect." Over the next few months, Simone and Terrence spent more time together. They had dinners after work. They went to art galleries on weekends. They took walks along the waterfront where the new development was rising. Terrence was patient with Simone's hesitations. When she pulled back emotionally, he gave her space. When she needed to talk about her trust issues, he listened without judgment. When she was ready to open up again, he was there. He was everything Brandon wasn't. Honest about his feelings. Respectful of her boundaries. Supportive of her career without trying to compete or diminish her success. He saw her strength and admired it rather than feeling threatened by it. "You're different from when we first met," Terrence said one evening as they watched the sunset from Simone's condo balcony. "How so?" "You seem more relaxed. More willing to let people in. The walls are coming down." "I built those walls for a reason," Simone said. "But I'm learning that not everyone is trying to hurt me. Some people are actually trustworthy." "I'm glad you're learning that." Terrence took her hand gently. "I want you to know there's no rush here. We move at whatever pace feels right to you. Thank you for being patient with me." "Simone, you're worth being patient for." The waterfront development's grand opening was scheduled for early December, just over a year after Simone had inherited Premier Holdings. The project was complete: 250 apartments, ground floor retail spaces, the community center, parks and green spaces. It was beautiful, functional, and exactly what Uncle Bernard would have envisioned. The night before the opening, Simone stood alone in the community center, looking at the portrait of Bernard Foster they'd hung on the wall. He smiled down at her, that knowing smile from the painting in her office. "I hope I made you proud, Uncle Bernard," she said quietly. "I tried to honor your values. I tried to build something that matters." Patricia found her there. "The press is here for tomorrow's opening. City officials, business leaders. This project is getting national attention." "It's overwhelming," Simone admitted. "A year ago I was a bookkeeper. Now I'm running a billion-dollar company and opening a major development. And you're doing it brilliantly." Bernard knew what he was doing when he chose you. Did he? "Sometimes I wonder if he just got lucky that I happened to be betrayed by my husband at the exact right time to make me angry enough to take charge of my life." Patricia laughed. "Bernard didn't believe in luck. He believed in character. He saw yours even when you didn't see it yourself." The grand opening was spectacular. The mayor cut the ribbon. News cameras captured the ceremony. Simone gave a speech about community-focused development and ethical business practices. The first residents moved into their apartments that week, a mix of wealthy professionals and middle-income families, exactly as planned. After the ceremony, Terrence found Simone in the crowd. "You did it. You actually did it. We did it. Your designs made this possible. Your vision made this possible. I just drew what you imagined." He hesitated. "Can I take you to dinner tonight? A real date this time, not just colleagues having a meal." Simone smiled. "Yes, I'd like that." That evening they went to an elegant restaurant. They talked about the project, about their childhoods, about their dreams for the future. The conversation was easy, natural, filled with laughter. As dessert arrived, Terrence said, "I need to tell you something. I'm falling for you, Simone. I know we said we'd take things slow and we can keep doing that. But I wanted you to know how I feel. You're brilliant and strong and kind. You've overcome so much this past year. Watching you build this company, lead with such integrity, it's been incredible." Simone felt tears in her eyes. Happy tears. "I'm falling for you too. It scares me because the last time I trusted someone with my heart, he destroyed it. But you're not him. You've shown me that not all men are manipulative. Some are actually good. I can't promise I'll never make mistakes. But I can promise I'll always be honest with you. I'll always respect you. And I'll never make you feel less than the amazing woman you are." "That's all I need," Simone said. They left the restaurant and walked along the waterfront, past the new development glowing with lights. Simone thought about how much her life had changed in 1 year. How betrayal had led to discovery. How devastation had led to strength. How being underestimated had led to her proving everyone wrong. Brandon had called her convenient, too trusting, not smart. He'd thought she'd never figure out his lies. He'd thought she had nothing and would remain nothing. He'd been so wrong. Simone had everything now. A successful company. A meaningful career. A new love that was built on respect and honesty. A life that was authentically hers. She wasn't grateful for Brandon's betrayal. But she was grateful for who she'd become in spite of it. Strong enough to walk away. Brave enough to take control. Wise enough to know her worth. As she and Terrence walked hand in hand past the community she'd built, Simone felt something she hadn't felt in years. Complete. Not because she had a man beside her, but because she'd built a life she was proud of. A life that mattered. A life that was hers. The old Simone would have questioned whether she deserved this happiness. The new Simone knew she absolutely did. She'd earned every bit of it through hard work, integrity, and refusing to be defined by someone else's betrayal. Brandon had tried to destroy her. Instead, he'd freed her. And now she was soaring higher than she ever imagined possible. 1 year to the day after Simone had sat in Mr. Patterson's office learning about her inheritance and her husband's betrayal, Premier Holdings held its annual gala. This year's theme was Building Communities, Building Futures. The event was held at the Waterfront Development's Community Center. 500 guests attended. Business leaders, city officials, Premier Holdings employees, residents of the new development, and representatives from the affordable housing organizations Simone had partnered with. Simone stood backstage, smoothing down her emerald dress. Terrence appeared beside her, looking handsome in his tuxedo. "Nervous?" he asked. "A little. This is the biggest speech I've given. You'll be brilliant. You always are." He kissed her cheek. "I'll be right there in the front row." Simone smiled. Over the past 6 months, her relationship with Terrence had deepened into something real and lasting. He'd met her family at Thanksgiving. She'd met his. They talked about the future, cautiously, mindfully, but with genuine hope. It wasn't rushed. It wasn't dramatic. It was healthy and steady and built on mutual respect. Everything her marriage to Brandon hadn't been. Patricia appeared backstage. Ready? As ready as I'll ever be. Good. Because there's a full house out there, and they're all eager to hear what you have to say. Simone walked onto the stage to thunderous applause. She looked out at the crowd and saw familiar faces. Mr. Patterson, who'd guided her through this entire journey. Patricia, who'd been her mentor and friend. The Premier Holdings team who'd supported her vision. Terrence in the front row, smiling with pride. And in the back, she noticed a familiar figure. Brandon. He stood near the exit, not dressed for the gala but in casual clothes, watching through the glass doors from outside. Their eyes met for a brief moment before he turned and walked away. Simone felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, just a distant acknowledgement that he'd existed in her life once. Then she focused on the people who mattered now. "Good evening," she began. "Thank you all for being here. 1 year ago, I inherited Premier Holdings from my great-uncle Bernard Foster. I'd never run a company. I'd never worked in real estate. I had no idea what I was doing." Polite laughter from the audience. But I had something more important than experience. I had values. I had a commitment to doing things right. I had a belief that business should serve communities, not just shareholders. And I had incredible people around me who believed in that vision too. She clicked to the next slide, showing photos of the waterfront development at various stages of construction. This development represents what's possible when we prioritize people over profit. Yes, it's profitable, very profitable. But it's also meaningful. We've created 250 homes, 50 of which are affordable housing units. We've brought retail businesses to an underserved neighborhood. We've built a community center that serves residents and non-residents alike. We've created jobs. We've revitalized a waterfront that was neglected for decades. Another slide showing residents of various backgrounds and income levels enjoying the community spaces. This is what Uncle Bernard believed in. This is what Premier Holdings will continue to stand for. Integrity, service, community, excellence. These aren't just words on our wall. They're the standards we hold ourselves to every single day. Simone paused, looking out at the audience. This past year has taught me something important. It's taught me that betrayal can be a catalyst for transformation. That being underestimated can be motivation to prove everyone wrong. That losing what you thought you had can lead to gaining something far more valuable. She wasn't just talking about business anymore, and everyone in that room knew it. The story of her divorce from Brandon, her taking over Premier Holdings, her firing her own husband for ethical violations. It had become local news. She'd never discussed it publicly, but she didn't need to. The facts spoke for themselves. I've learned that integrity matters more than anything. That doing the right thing isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. That success means nothing if it's built on lies or exploitation or cutting corners. She clicked to the final slide, showing plans for Premier Holdings' next project. Another mixed-income development in a different neighborhood. This is what we're building next. Another community. Another opportunity to show that ethical business practices and profitability aren't mutually exclusive. Another chance to honor Uncle Bernard's legacy. The applause was overwhelming. Simone stepped back from the podium as the crowd rose in a standing ovation. She caught Terrence's eye and saw him wiping away a tear. After her speech, she mingled with guests. Business leaders wanted to discuss investment opportunities. City officials wanted to talk about future developments. Residents of the waterfront development wanted to thank her for creating their community. One elderly woman approached Simone, holding her hand tightly. "Thank you for including affordable housing in this development. Without it, I couldn't afford to live here. You gave people like me a chance to be part of something beautiful." "Thank you for being part of our community," Simone said warmly. "That's what this is all about." Later in the evening, Simone found a quiet moment on the balcony overlooking the waterfront. Terrence joined her, handing her a glass of champagne. "Quite a year," he said. "Quite a year," Simone agreed. "Are you happy? Really happy?" Simone thought about it. "Yes, I'm happy. Not in a perfect everything is wonderful way, but in a real way. I have work I love, people I trust, a future I'm excited about. That's more than enough. It's more than most people ever get." Terrence looked at her seriously. "Simone, I love you. I wanted to wait for the right moment to say it, but standing here watching you shine tonight, I couldn't wait any longer. I love you." Simone felt her heart swell. "I love you too." You've helped me believe in good men again. You've shown me what healthy love looks like. I didn't think I'd ever trust someone with my heart again, but I trust you." They kissed as fireworks exploded over the waterfront, part of the gala celebration. The timing was perfect, almost cinematic. "I don't know what the future holds," Simone said, "but I know I want you in it. That's all I need to hear." The gala continued late into the night. As it wound down, Simone stood in the community center, looking at the portrait of Uncle Bernard one more time. "I did it, Uncle Bernard. I honored your legacy. I built something that matters. I became the woman you believed I could be." Patricia appeared beside her. "Talking to Bernard? Just thanking him. For everything. He'd be so proud of you." "I know I am. Thank you for everything you've done for me this year. I couldn't have survived without your guidance. You would have figured it out. You're stronger than you give yourself credit for." Patricia smiled. "Bernard saw that strength even when you didn't. That's why he chose you." As Simone drove home that night, Terence beside her, she reflected on the past year. The devastation she'd felt sitting in Mr. Patterson's office. The anger that had fueled her through gathering evidence. The power she'd felt firing Brandon and ending her marriage. The satisfaction of building Premier Holdings into something even greater than before. The joy of falling in love again the right way this time. It had been the hardest year of her life, but also the most transformative. Brandon had thought he'd broken her when he betrayed her. Instead, he'd freed her from a life that was never meant for her. He'd thought she was convenient, too trusting, not smart enough. He'd been wrong about all of it. Simone was inconvenient, in the best way. She asked hard questions. She demanded integrity. She refused to settle for less than she deserved. She was trusting, but only with people who earned that trust through consistent action, not empty promises. And she was smart, brilliantly smart in ways Brandon had never bothered to notice because he'd been too busy underestimating her. The woman Brandon had mocked to his mistress was gone. In her place was a CEO, a community builder, a woman who'd taken betrayal and turned it into power. A woman who'd inherited an empire and made it even greater. A woman who'd lost a husband and found herself. Simone Clark was no longer defined by her marriage or her divorce. She was defined by her choices, her values, her integrity. She was building a legacy that would outlast any relationship, any betrayal, any challenge. As she and Terence arrived at her condo, Simone looked up at the city lights and smiled. This was her city now. Her company. Her life. She'd started this journey as a bookkeeper with a modest life and a cheating husband. She was ending it as a CEO with an empire and a love built on respect. Brandon had tried to make her small. Instead, she'd become infinite. And that was the ultimate revenge. Not hurting him back, but becoming so successful and happy that he became completely irrelevant to her story. He was just a chapter that had ended. She was the whole book, still being written, getting better with every page. The full circle was complete. From devastation to transformation. From betrayal to empowerment. From being underestimated to proving everyone wrong.